Hello students, today we will discuss human rights. This topic is very important for us as without knowing this we won't be able to discharge our duties as a citizen. Aim of this session is to define human rights, recognize basic human rights, appreciate the importance of human rights, to know about the institutional mechanisms to protect human rights, and conceptualize a right-based approach to human development. Now, let us find out what is human rights. Before we know what is human rights, we must understand what are rights. Now, if I am able to walk on the street, if I am able to stay safely in my house, that is my right. In fact, these are facilities or opportunities given by the society and recognized by the state. Without the recognition of the state, the rights will not have legal sanction. Means we won't be able to protect our rights when somebody deprives us from our rights. Now, these rights, people say, political scientists say, that are born with us. That means when we were born with three natural rights: right to life, right to liberty, and right to pursuit of happiness. Some say the third right to pursuit of happiness, is otherwise known as right to property, because without having certain personal property, we cannot pursue happiness. We won't be happy, because if I want to write down something and somebody takes away my pen, how will I write? So therefore, each and every human being must have certain personal properties. In the course of history, this happened like this. Some mighty persons deprived the less mightier, means the weaker ones, of their rights. Some dominant personalities deprived some human beings of their dignity, of their labor, of their shelter. Therefore, in due course of time, this concept of human rights came into being. In 17th century, the political philosopher said that no one can take away our rights, not even the state, because we are born with these rights and these are our natural rights. The state is there only to protect these rights. So dear students, the definition of human rights is not an edgy task. It can expand as a nation desires. Harold Lasky, the great English philosopher of 20th century, said and wrote in his book Grammar of Politics that a state is known by the rights it gives. Means if it is a modern welfare state, the state gives us right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. If it is a socialistic state, the state gives us right to life, right to liberty, and right to work. The state does not give us right to property. That does not mean we are not having personal properties. Only the socialistic state does not allow us to have private properties, which ultimately help us to accumulate more and more and to become richer and richer. It is also difficult to conceptualize and identify these rights. It has been defined internationally, nationally, and locally by various law-making bodies. The common understanding is that human rights are entitlements that an individual owns just because of his or her existence as a human being, irrespective of his or her nationality, caste, race, sex, color, religion, or any other socio-economic divisive categories. So therefore, when the world witnessed many such violation of rights, then the world became conscious of discussing and deliberating on the concepts of rights. What are those rights which should the humans as human beings must have? Human rights have derived from the inherent dignity of human beings. Its roots lie in men's quest for a good life. Around 579 BC, a great ruler, Cyrus the Great, conquered many nations but allowed the people of the conquered nations freedom from slavery, freedom of religion, and the right to practice their culture. You know, the Cyrus the Great set a new example where he said, even if a king conquers a nation but should not conquer the freedom of the people or the should not enslave the citizens of another nation or should allow the citizens of another nation to the right to practice their culture, because these are essentials for humans to live under this world. He ruled for 30 years and people could realize the importance of rights, religious toleration, and good life. In 1215, in Great Britain, the English people insisted to the king that no one can override rights of individuals, not even the king. They compelled the king to sign the Charter of Liberty, called as Magna Carta, as the king could not take away their freedom. In 1689, again, the English people forced the king to sign the Petition of Rights, and this Petition of Rights is a long list of individual rights. This is how in Great Britain the Glorious Revolution happened, and by this revolution the English could take the power from the king and give the power to the parliament, which is a representative institution. That means the power transferred from the king, the ruler, to the parliament. The king just remained and is remaining as a ceremonial head. In 1776, Americans declared themselves free from British imperialism and said all men are equal and all have three inalienable natural rights: right to life, right to liberty, and right to pursuit of happiness. Men are born with these rights. In 1789, the French declared themselves as free from feudal rulers, and they scripted three concepts: liberty, equality, and fraternity. The French said that the society should be made such that an atmosphere has to be created to enjoy liberty. That means we are all brothers and sisters. We must allow each other to enjoy liberty as we are all equals. In spite of all these declarations, human rights violations continued in the world. Few powerful people only enjoyed rights. Women in families and societies, workers in industries, labor on the agricultural farm, blacks among whites, lower castes among upper caste Hindus, and many others were deprived of their basic rights. Human rights violation was the worst of its kind during the Second World War. History is a witness to this. Germans committed the most inhuman atrocities on the Jews of their country during the World War II. Observing the Holocaust of war, the nations came together in 1945 and established United Nations to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of human persons. UN established a Human Rights Commission under the chairpersonship of Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor developed the list of human rights, and on 10th December 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed by member nations of United Nations. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights was followed by subsequent covenants adopted by United Nations. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights has 30 articles, which includes all those rights which are necessary or essential for human living, like right to life, right to liberty, right to work, right to have a home, right to marriage, right to privacy, and so on. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights was signed in 1966 because the member nations felt the necessity of spelling out or expanding the human rights more. In 1966, and another international document was scripted, that is International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. In 1979, another international covenant was prepared to eliminate all forms of discrimination against women. This is popularly known as CEDAW, Covenant on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Now, all legislations which aim at protecting the dignity of women is following the provisions of CEDAW. These documents were meant to fill the gaps in Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. Now let us see what are these human rights. How do we categorize them? One category can be the civil rights, like right to equality, that means all are equal before the law, freedom from arbitrary arrest and exile, right to fair public hearing, right to be considered innocent until proven guilty. These are civil rights, the rights which you must enjoy as citizens or as humans before the court of law. Other category is social rights like right to marriage and family, freedom of choice in marriage, right to own property, freedom of belief and religion, right to education, right to rest and leisure. Because as humans, we must have rest and we must have leisure to rejuvenate, to recharge ourselves. The third category may be political rights, right to peacefully assemble and association, right to participate in government and contest in the election. The fourth category may be economic rights, that is, right to desirable work and join trade unions to assert your rights as workers, right to social security, equal pay for equal work. Because the world has observed in many places that employers do not give equal wages to women at par with men. So therefore, this is also a part of Universal Declaration of Human Rights that every nation must give equal pay for equal work to both men and women workers. The next category is cultural rights, that is, right to participate in the cultural life of the community, freedom of belief and religion. Now, let me tell you, the world sees the civil and political rights as first generation human rights, as they came fast after the rise of liberalism as a political philosophy. Liberalism is a philosophy which says that man is the maker of his own destiny because man has rationalism or reason. Man is the best judge of his own self. So men should be given the right to choice, right to make choices, and these are included in civil and political rights. Since these rights were advocated by the English people first, therefore they are called as blue rights. Social and economic rights are the second generation of rights and that are called as red rights as they were emphasized after the emergence of communism or socialist states like the erstwhile Union of Soviet Socialist Republic and China. Collective rights over common property resources and culture are called as third generation rights and green rights. Here we are saying that the tribals have a right to forest. It also includes right to pollution-free environment. Right to internet, which is so vital in 21st century, is called as the fourth generation of rights. Now, let us compile the features of human rights. Human rights are not privileges to be granted or revoked by anyone. These are a part of existence of an individual. These are inalienable rights. As you know, the heart cannot be separated from the body, so also the human rights cannot be separated from an individual. Individuals are born with these human rights. These human rights are universal in nature, means everyone gets these human rights everywhere. These are internationally guaranteed. These rights get legal protection in every nation. This protects individuals as well as the groups. It protects the common property resources, means it also protects the group rights. These are equal and indivisible. These are not transferable. It compels the state and the state actors to protect these human rights. So, precisely speaking, the state is the result of a contract which says that unless it protects the human rights of its citizens, state has no locus standi to exist. Another way to look at these human rights, now the rights which we hold, that is right to life, right to nationality, right to own property, right to have rest and leisure. The right which we get or somebody must do it, that is right to education, right to marry, right to assemble peacefully, right to contest for public office. Third, right to be free from cruelty, torture, inhuman and degrading punishment, arbitrary arrest, detention or exile. Fourth, right to exact something, equal protection of the law, equal access to public service, and equal pay for equal work. Now, dear students, based on what we have discussed, let us pose certain questions. Now, one question that I would like to present before you is that think about a baby who is not born, is in the mother's womb. Today we hear about, abortions where the female fetus is aborted because the couple wants a son and the fetus is a female fetus. Can you tell what are the baby's expectations who is in the mother's womb? To be allowed to have life, to have food and drink, that means the mother must have good food, to be protected from diseases, that the mother must be disease free while pregnant, to get protection from harm. The family must take care of the expectant mother, should not harm the mother by any means. Another question that must be coming to your mind, many times you see this picture where a bulldozer is breaking a house. Why? Because the state wants to take the railway line through that. Don't you think it is in a way affecting the right to personal property as a human right of the concerned person whose house is broken? How the state is doing this? How the state is empowered by law to do this? Now, what is the answer? The answer is state does so in larger public interest, gives appropriate compensation to the concerned person and rehabilitates the households. The state puts reasonable restrictions on human rights in the national interest or public interest because the state must create an enabling environment in society so that all of us can enjoy human rights all the time, anywhere and everywhere. Everybody cannot hire a flight journey. We need to have railway lines. We need to have a reasonable price and reasonable system of communication. Therefore, the state would get the right to break the house to construct the railway line. So what we know now, rights and duties are complementary. My freedom, right to freedom, is your duty to allow me to enjoy my right to freedom. However, what is the ground reality? What are the debates on human rights? We observe that two streams of events or thoughts cut each other's path. One stream is witness to myriad forms of human rights violations. The other attempts are to develop institutional mechanisms to protect human rights. Reports say, see the picture. The children are not getting food. How malnourished they are. Reports say 16,000 children die every day out of hunger. Thousands are in prison for exercising their freedom of speech because the ruler is a very, very dictatorial ruler, doesn't allow freedom of speech and expression. And 1 million adults are unable to read because right to education is not there. Women are slapped for not doing household work properly. There is rampant violence against women in the families. Why this happens in the presence of Universal Declaration of Human Rights? It is important to remember that Universal Declaration of Human Rights does not have the force of law because it is a agreement among sovereign nations. Nations may or may not obey them. So therefore, we have certain international institutional mechanisms to persuade the sovereign nations to ensure human rights of the humans. The Human Rights Council is an intergovernmental body within the United Nations system. The members are 47 states responsible for the promotion and protection of all human rights around the globe. It meets at the United Nations office at Geneva. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights is the focal point for United Nations human rights activities. It serves as the secretariat for the Human Rights Council and other UN human rights organs. Now, India has been re-elected to this United Nations Human Rights Council for the 6th term from 2022 to 2024. Government of India has brought an act that is known as Protection of Human Rights Act in 1993. As per this act, government has created institutions to protect and secure human rights. That is, Human Rights Commission at the national level and Human Rights Commission at the state level. Other countries have also taken such steps to protect human rights of citizens. Now, dear students, what you find? You have already known about what are these human rights. It is actually, it is our duty to protect these human rights and allow each other, help each other to enjoy these human rights. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the session.